Like the pieces of a puzzle made of thousands of tiny magnets coming together, everything fell into place. The security team, his office location, the way he carried himself, the men at the door downstairs. Everything I'd witnessed related to Patrick Malloy pointed to one thing. Hey y'all, Casey Paponia here. In this video, I'm going to dive behind the cover of my debut novel, Shamrocks and Secrets. Now, before we get started, if you could do me a huge favor and hit the like button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really does help my channel. So no one ever believes me when I tell them that the idea for Shamrocks and Secrets came about from a dream. Many years ago, I dreamt that I was sitting down at a table across from what is now Patrick Malloy and was having a conversation. It was more of a banter situation where he would say something, cheeky, and I would say something back. And I woke up that following morning and I'm like, what in the world? For one, I know nothing of at the time, I knew nothing of the Mafia, with the exception is that you avoid them unless you were asking for trouble, and you avoids trouble like the plague. So I kind of tossed it to the side and thought, okay, you ate something stupid, don't do it again. So the next night, he came to my dreams again. And I was like, okay, this is a bit weird. But again, I threw it off and went, it's whatever, right? So it was the morning after the third or the fourth night in a row that I had dreamt about Patrick that I sat up and went, no, wait a minute. There's got to be some way to get rid of this. And so I sat down, or I sat up in bed, and I grabbed a notepad and wrote down the dream. And I thought, you know what, that's going to take care of it. He's, had his say, we're going to move on. Little did I know that those dreams would morph into something that changed my life. When I decided to throw in the towel and give Patrick Malloy the story that he wanted, I wasn't going to do it halfway. So I was able to, through a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend situation, have an interview with an individual who may or may not be involved in organized crime. And to say that I was nervous sitting down with this individual is an understatement. I was absolutely terrified. But I will tell you that in doing research over the years, and I'm going to kind of go on a little jag here and just bear with me, but I've interviewed lawyers and doctors and nurses, of course, and people who hold positions in society that we respect. Make sense? And I will tell you that I have also sat down with members of the blood organization. I have sat down with the may or may not be involved with organized crime. And I've also sat down with a 1% motorcycle club individual. And of all the interviews that I've sat down and been through, the 1%, the blood, and the Mafia were by far not only interesting, but respectful. I will talk about those interviews in later books. I'm going to try and focus, but I just wanted to throw that in on you that, we do judge a book by its cover. Clearly, we're all here because we love those handsome men on the books. I'm no exception, but So during my research, I discovered several little idiosyncrasies, can you say, or traditions that members of this particular family practiced. And several of them I included in the book, and with permission, of course, because trust me, again, gotta be careful with Mafia, I'm just saying. So that is where the idea for Shamrocks and Secrets came from. A dream that wouldn't leave me alone. So in creating Patrick Malloy, I knew that his character was going to need to be several things. Number one, I had to make him fearless. He is the leader of the Irish Mafia. Okay? He is not going to be someone that is not, who wouldn't walk down the street without confidence, or who wouldn't go into a bad situation with a stomach full of nerves. He was not going to be that person. I wanted him bold. I wanted him borderline cocky, with confidence that just, oh my God, you could just, pick it up and put it in your pocket, how much confidence was going to come off of him. I also needed him to ooze charisma, yet I wanted him mysterious as well. And because he's a fictional character, I wanted him insanely handsome. And when I was looking for the individual who was going to be on that cover, I will tell you that the second I saw this face, game over. That was the face that I pictured in my mind when I wrote Shamrocks and Secrets. That was it. That was him. Devilishly handsome, conning, Patrick Malloy. Now, another side of Patrick that needed to happen is that as tough and rugged as he was, he also had to have that tiny crack, that small sliver of space, big enough for only one person to crawl through. And she did. She did. Now, as unique as Patrick was, and he's unique, Christi had to have strong character. I mean, she's the love interest of a mafia boss. I took the ignorance that I had when I went into writing this book and gave it to her. I wanted her to be reluctant, and I wanted her to question everything. I needed to make her loaded with doubt about Patrick's intentions and many things. I will not ruin the book for anyone who hasn't read it yet, but there is a lot of areas where Christi is like, what's going on here? This can't be real, and things that are personal. Anyway, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but hopefully I'm intriguing you because it's really, really, really good. Now, when I brought those two together, I gave them a series of roadblocks that were intended to crank up the sexual tension and yet lay the foundation for the plot that I wanted to write. Now, with Christi, as handsome as Patrick is, sis is going to be beautiful. And I needed her to have confidence, not to the extent that Patrick has, but I wanted her comfortable in her own skin. She needed to be her own person, so I gave her a solid career that she could rely on. But she, with her being, a member of the family, so to speak, I had to make her suspicious, and that she doesn't accept anything at face value, which, if you think about what her father does, is kind of apropos. And I didn't plan it that way, but I'm glad it happened. Now, Shamrocks and Secrets has many working parts, from the secrets that Patrick kept to the many relationships developing throughout the story. I intended this book to be one of those that you just can't stop. You can't turn that page fast enough. That you find yourself oddly rooting for the ultimate bad guy and then celebrating when he finally gets what he's been after the entire book. Now, that's not to say that I didn't plan some pitfalls. And trust me when I say, just when you think you figured out what's going on, I changed the rules. That's how I am. You gotta love me. Someone asked me why in the world I chose Chicago for the setting. And I wish I had something clever to tell you. However, the truth is, I narrowed it down to 2 cities, Chicago and Boston. And I flipped a coin and let fate choose for me. Now, for those of you who are Boston fans, calm down. There's another book, and we'll discuss it later, where Boston is where things go down, so to speak. My favorite character. Sadly, no matter how hard I try not to play favorites with each book, I find myself falling in love with at least one of my characters. Sometimes more. At least one. Now, sometimes it's the lead, and sometimes it's not. With Shamrocks and Secrets, although I adore Patrick and I think the world of Christi, Harley's my girl. She thought that she had it all planned out. She knew exactly what she wanted, only to be virtually slapped in the face with reality when the man she lived for didn't return her affections. And so she had to look at life differently. Call it happenstance, whatever it is you believe in, but my real life husband is named Patrick. My Patrick, my real life husband, and the fictional character that I created are polar opposites. For one, my Patrick was military and very law-abiding, and where, you know, Patrick is organized crime and very much on the wild side, very much. Where they do intersect is Patrick Malloy, very much an alpha, and my real life husband, very much an alpha. That's just me. That's who I'm attracted to. That's what, you know, I like. So, yeah. Christi. Christi was a childhood friend of mine. I haven't spoken to her in, oh my gosh, a long time. She has no idea that I gave my character that name. She was just a really sweet individual, and I appreciate her. Now, Harley was gifted to me by my husband, and when you read the book, you will understand the rationale my Patrick gave in the book, as the quote for her name is directly from him. Nothing in this world gives me more pleasure than having that gas moment which steals your breath and causes your heart to race. I thrive on creating a plot that has you believing that you know what's happening. You know the ending. And then I decide to just pull that rug right up from underneath you and leave you stunned. For me, it's the ultimate challenge to create a good plot twist. Now, sometimes for me, it's super easy, like the one in Shamrocks, and some aren't so easy, like future books that we'll talk about. All right, you've kept your end of the bargain and stayed until the end. So if you've enjoyed this glimpse behind the cover, please do me a favor and like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, I promise, but you have no idea what a difference it can make for me and this channel. One of the favorite things for me to write was the realization of Christi figuring out that Patrick is in the Mafia. And it came to me very, very sweetly and very smoothly. And sometimes I wish I could have a USB cord, you know, like in the Matrix, and just plug that in, and so you can see like a movie these things that are going through my head. I so wish you could, but again, since you stuck with me and you've listened, and hopefully I've intrigued you, but now I want to reward you, and I'm going to read to you my favorite part of Shamrocks and Secrets, just so that, and just listen. This isn't a safe neighborhood, Christi. A beautiful woman such as yourself could attract some unwanted attention. Yes, you're right. Thank you for your concern. I'll see myself out. Not so fast, Christi. Patrick rose from his chair. I turned my attention back to him and sat back and down in my chair. Although it was courageous for you to come here and thank me for helping your sister, I'm afraid my actions deserve a little more. Wouldn't you think? His eyes never left mine as he continued, his smirk turning a little more sinister. After all, I did get Deuce to pay your sister a large sum of money. Did I not? I'd say mere words would not suffice. I was at a loss for what to say. This had not gone as I'd planned. This was supposed to take a few minutes, and I would be on my way home. He was right. I was attracting unwanted attention. Then please, enlighten me as to how I can properly thank you. Easy, Christi. Have dinner with me. His suggestion was not what I expected, although I had no real clue what he would deem acceptable. However, just as I was about to tell him where he could stick his request for dinner, Patrick unbuttoned his suit jacket and leaned back in his chair, casually lifted his long legs and placed them on his desk, the shiny handgun in the waistband of his pants making its first appearance. Averting my eyes from the metal of the gun, I looked to the three men who had taken a seat in the leather sofa against the wall, each of their jackets open as well, various degrees of metal tucked into waistbands and holsters. Like the pieces of a puzzle made of thousands of tiny magnets coming together, everything fell into place. The security team, his office location, the way he carried himself, the men at the door downstairs. Everything I'd witnessed related to Patrick Malloy pointed to one thing: the Mafia. Now, when I was writing that, I could picture Christi sitting in this chair, loaded with good intention. She's come there to say thank you for what you've done to my sister, and instead, her world shifts. She's gone from believing that her world is one way to knowing that it's so different. I could visually see all those pieces floating through the air. And I hope I described it enough that you could do the same, that you could see those pieces coming together, floating in to create this image that she finally gets it, that Patrick Malloy is in the Mafia. Thank you so much for sticking with me till the end. Hopefully I've intrigued you enough that you want to go out and read Shamrocks and Secrets. Tune in next week for the second book in the series, Claudia and Chaos. We'll dive a little deeper in there and let you in on how that one came about. Thank you so much for spending time with me. See you next time.